Okay, so today we're going to talk about relative clauses, which are just clauses that describe nouns and tell us something about the nouns that they go with. Basic rundown of a clause. A clause is any group of words that includes a subject and a verb. We have two main types of clauses. There's the primary or main clause, and that's the clause that can exist on its own in its sentence. And then, of course, we have the secondary or dependent clause, and those are clauses whose purpose in a sentence is to describe the main clause and tell us something more about the action or the people in the main clause. The big way to tell the difference is the secondary or the dependent clauses can't function on their own. Okay, so let's look at some examples of these clauses. I see Marcus who is eating breakfast. I see Marcus is your main clause here. That's the main idea. And then this who is eating breakfast part right here just explains something about Marcus. Okay, when my alarm goes off, I wake up. I wake up, that's the main idea. When my alarm goes off is just telling us when this action happens. So it's, again, just describing waking up. Are you tired because you stayed up? Are you tired because you stayed up? So because you stayed up explains why you're tired. And so this is going to be the dependent. This is the main clause. That is the boy whose dog went in my classroom. So that is the boy is your main clause. Whose dog went in my classroom? That tells us something about the boy here. So that's going to be your dependent clause. Okay, let's look at these two down here. Notice I didn't bold them like I did with these other ones. When you watched the game, were you happy? Take a second to see if you can figure out which one of these is the main clause and which is the subordinate. Okay, so hopefully you came up with when you watched the game is the dependent or the subordinate. Put dependent here. And were you happy? That's your main part, right? Main. So when you watch the game just tells us when you might have been happy. I forgot my watch since I was really tired this morning. Can you break that one up into clauses? So I forgot my watch, that's the main idea. Why did you forget your watch? Since I was really tired this morning. Notice all of these dependent clauses start with words that explain something. Since, when, whose, because, when, who, etc. Whereas the rest of these, the main clauses, don't need that. I see Marcus. It stands on its own. So relative clauses are a specific type of clause that describe a noun. So notice all these sentences, all of them are talking about this boy. We see what the boy is doing, is the boy's relationship to you, etc. Now notice all of these clauses have the word who or whose or whom in common. That is something that you're always going to see in a relative clause, always going to be introduced by a who or a whom or a whose, or even the word which if you're referring to things. Sometimes you'll also have the word that, which can replace all these. I see the boy that is reading. So that who, which word is what's called the relative pronoun. So if we go back, these words here are all the relative pronouns. These are the forms. The relative pronoun is always going to come right after the word that it's describing. So notice here, who comes right after boy, who, whom. They all come right after it, right? So notice the relative pronoun in all of these clauses replaces the word that precedes it. So who replaces boy. I see the boy who is reading. The person that's reading is the boy. I see the boy whose book is on the floor. Whose replaces boy. It's the boy's book, etc. So this word, in our case boy, is going to be what we call the antecedent. The antecedent is the noun that comes before the relative pronoun, and it's the one that the relative pronoun replaces. So that's going to do it for a brief explanation of how the relative pronoun works in English. It's fairly similar in Latin, and I'll show you that in the next video.